Indian children in the residential schools die at a much higher rate than in their villages. But this does not justify a change in the policy of this department, which is geared towards a final solution of our Indian problem. Duncan Campbell Scott, Deputy Superintendent of Indian Affairs.
A lot of blame, a lot of accusations, a lot of exaggerations, a lot of false ideas.
Their education must consist not merely training of the mind, but of a weaning from the habits and feelings of their ancestors and the acquirements of the language, art, and customs of civilized life. Edgerton Ryerson, 1847 Report for Indian Affairs.
Microphone number 2 to you, Proxy.
Thank you. I'm Ted Cusant, Proxy. It's very, very sad what you hear, what was presented. Especially the perpetrators who are doing it and who have done it. It just brings back each survivor has that little boy or that little girl inside of them, and it comes out, and it did come out before I come up here.
Strapped, I got beaten up for speaking my own native tongue. I even had my tongue pulled out and pinched,
My strongest memory there is when the little girl died beside me. She must have been about 6. Everything destroyed in our world. We didn't bother white people. White people bothered me.
Indian culture is a contradiction in terms. They are uncivilized. The aim of education is to destroy the Indian. Nicholas Flood David Report.
Most countries would be convicted if this definition of genocide was passed by the United Nations. Take a look at this picture. This is in 1874, and his name is Thomas More. This is what Canada's message was. This is what they had hoped to give out to the general population. When you look at Thomas More here, you see his face slightly a little bit darker, a little bit dirtier. His hand's on his braid, which comes down to about here. He has a gun in his hand, in his regalia, or his natural set of clothes. And it's quite clearly they're trying to make him look savage, brutal, hostile. That whole definition that we were brought up to believe. And then you go to the other side, and that's Thomas More after residential school. His face is a few shades lighter, in some really nice, nice clothes, nice haircut, looking really civilized, and a part of society. This is the definition of cultural genocide.
A lot of blame, a lot of accusations, a lot of exaggerations, a lot of false ideas.
Each survivor has that little boy with that little girl inside of the... And it comes out. And it did come out before I come up here.
When I was a little girl, when the principal used to beat up the other children, like boys, the boys got the most beating. They used to call it bench party, and it was usually done after supper. And that's where I got frightened, because I saw blood.
I remember when we had to shower. You only have to show me how to shower and clean and wash myself, how to wash my private and my, private parts of your body. You don't have to show a kid once or twice at the most, but not every day. And have the supervisor come in there and basically take advantage of you.
I just remember arriving there and donning new clothes and, of course, getting a haircut and sitting in a classroom and being with other girls and witnessing my brother get punched by the supervisor.
In order to educate the children properly, we must separate them from their families. Some people may say that this is hard, but if we want to civilize them, we must do that. A federal cabinet minister, 1883.
Each survivor has that little boy or that little girl inside of the... And it comes out. And it did come out before I come up here. I'm a very proud man of the AFN, because I was a part of AFN right from 30 years ago, 35 years. And to hear this, it just shocks me. And this is what a hierarchy system does to us. When we flatten our hierarchy system to our cultural and traditional and our inherent rights process ways, we won't have this, because there's equality with women, girls, boys, different genders. And all of us know what has to be done. Especially hearing some elders done it, abused, some knowledge keepers. That's why we got to be very careful who we hire. Just because you're dressed like an Indian and you have braids and everything else, you're a knowledge keeper and you tell her you could do the job. You got to do your due diligence. You got to do the history of those people, where they come from, for the safety of our young women that work. In my times with AFN, we've heard a lot of this, but there's times we couldn't prove things. So, my dear friends, it's in our hands. It's our responsibility. We all got to deal with it. We can't afford to point fingers. You point one finger, 5 point back. So let's take responsibility and let's clean house. Let's clean our organization up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief.